Everyone wants to live an inspired life, yet so many people search for happiness following the footsteps of peers and taking advice from people who have different values and outcomes to which they're searching. There are people born into wealth, graduated from the best universities in the world, and there are people who have none of that and yet are living extraordinary lives full of fulfillment and reward. The purpose of this podcast is to share insights and strategies that allow you to question the status quo and think freely, so you can design your life and be who you want to be. We get one life. Time is our most valuable asset. I believe that when we're free and able to focus on meaningful work, we become better human beings. This is Always Free, and I'm your host, Jason Greystone.
Welcome to the leading podcast for financial empowerment and wealth creation. Subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. You can connect with Jason on social media and subscribe to the Jason Greystone YouTube channel for weekly videos. Don't forget to also subscribe to the weekly newsletter to receive frequent educational content and action steps to help you design your life so you can be who you want to be. For news on all future events and updates, go to jasongreystone.com.
Alright guys, welcome back to the podcast. Hope you're enjoying it so far. A couple of episodes in, and this week had a lot of great feedback about episode 2, but this week I want to talk a little bit more about the mindset towards certain myths and traps and things that you've heard your peers say, and how our mindset is affected and how we're kind of brainwashed into a certain way of thinking, and how it's really not always in your best intention. This whole podcast is called Always Free, and it's really about being able to decide how you spend your time so that you can feel liberated, so that you feel that you've designed your life rather than you've gone along with what you've heard, what someone else has said, and you end up full of regret, you end up resentful, you end up bitter because you've taken advice from someone. And when you end up resentful and bitter, it's because the advice that you took isn't necessarily in line with your own true personal values. Okay, so you might have a high value on something and someone's told you to do something else that isn't necessarily the best intention, or in the best intention to achieve that result. You're going to feel resentful, especially if you spent a long time in your life trying to achieve something and you've actually been doing advice that's allowed you to do the complete opposite. You've taken advice that's allowed you to do the complete opposite. So the whole podcast is designed around getting you to think outside the box, to question things, and really allow you to kind of map out where you want to be and then just go all in on that. Because one of the biggest things that drove me, one thing I was really trying to do from the outset, I spoke last week about the income replacement. What was behind that? Why was I trying to replace my income? Well, I'll tell you why. Because the most valuable thing we've got is time. And once you've got time, you can then become free to think about how you spend every single day. And when you've got all the time in the world to think about what you want to do and, what you want to work on and what gets you fired up and what gets you out of bed in the morning, that's when you become a real, you become a better human being. No doubt about it, because you can take part in meaningful work, you can make the world a better place, you can help other people, you can help your family, you can solve problems for people, you can really, really put all your efforts into thinking how you can create a solution, how you can find fulfillment from providing a service. And again, I want to remind you that once you become financially independent or financially free and you've got time, you're not going to want to sit on a beach with a cocktail. You won't. There's only so many cocktails you can drink. Human beings are, they've got this deep inner drive to serve, and they want fulfillment. And you don't get fulfillment from just raking in money without providing service or value. You just don't. It's just there's something missing. When I started trading and I was able to trade full time if I wanted to, I still thought, well, it doesn't feel right. There's something missing. So the next thing is we want to be thinking about time, but really most people have got this block. You know, I know many many people who have got this whole thing in their head, like the people on the estate that I grew up with, that money is bad. And I want to just kind of break this myth, because if you're listening to this podcast and you're going on this journey throughout this podcast, and there's going to be many, many episodes of this podcast, the first thing you need to do is accept that you need to open your mind and you need to question and base your own opinion. You know, create your own opinion on what you feel about money and what you feel about certain topics that we're going to be discussing. But the first one is money. Because money, like, we grow up hearing all these bad things about money, and I hear people tell me that money's evil, or money, you know, when you grew up you probably heard money don't grow on trees, or what do you know, what do you think I'm made of money, and all this kind of thing. And I've got people that tell me that, yeah, you know, money isn't important, you know, my relationship's important, or my kids are more important. And, you know, I agree that your kids are important. I agree that your family's important. I agree that your relationships are important. But let me just sort of suggest something to you, right? If that's you. First of all, we need 3 things, okay, to live a healthy and happy life. And those 3 things are food and water. So food and water, we need to eat and we need to drink. I'll put that in one category. We also need shelter. So we need, you know, a roof over our head. We need some warmth from the elements, the weather. And we also need cleaning products or medicines, you know, pharmaceuticals. We need to protect ourselves from germs, and if we get infected, we need to be able to treat that. And the last time I checked, all of those 3 things cost money. All of those cost money. So that's one reason that we need money. But the other thing is, if you think that money is bad and money's evil and you don't care about money, and, you know, you're saying things like, I don't care about money, you know, I don't need money, money doesn't make you happy. Well, try living without those 3 things, and I'm pretty sure that you'll be quite miserable. Your soul will be, you know, destroyed. You'll be low. You'll have a low, you know, motivation. You'll be your spirit will be low. Those who you love will have a low spirit as well, and you'll probably end up arguing and all that kind of thing, right? So the next thing you want to think about is, if you do really, really, really think that money isn't important and money can't buy happiness and all that kind of thing, right? Why do the majority of people go to work every day? They commute to work. They spend an hour to commute into work, to spend 8 hours in an office or a job that statistics say that most people hate, right? Away from their family, away from the ones they love, spending it in a job they hate. And then they have to commute back, and they're gone for like 10, 11 hours, 12 hours a day. And then there's the overtime, and they have to work weekends. And then they get home and they're attending to emails and ignoring their kids and ignoring their partners and all that kind of thing. Why would you do that if money isn't important? You know, why do you do that? And the answer they will come back with is, well, I need the money. And that's okay. Like, you do need the money. That's fine. But thinking it's horrible or evil or, you know, a problem, or you don't need it, is just, it's like you're setting a conflict in your own mind. You're basically going to work to get something that you think you don't need, or you're telling yourself you don't need. And all that's going to end up in is frustration. You're going to be frustrated for a long, long time if you've got that conflict in your head. So just to dig a little bit deeper on that, I just want to talk about why, you know, the concept of money. Because if you do still think that money isn't important, let me just tell you that money is just a tool. Money is a tool and nothing else. And the reason it was invented is because if we was to go back in time when money wasn't around, and let's just say, for instance, you know, you were a dab hand at sewing up clothing, right? and you came, and I came to you because I'd torn my shirt, and I said to you, listen, do you mind sewing up my shirt, because this is my best shirt and I want to wear it, to dinner, and I've got this hole in it, would you mind sewing it up for me? And you're like, yeah, sure, I'm a dab hand with a needle and thread, I'll do that for you, it'll take me 5 minutes. And also, my mum needs open heart surgery next week, so I know you're a dab hand with a scalpel, so I'll come and see you, right? And I'm thinking, this don't quite add up. The surgery took me 6 years to learn how to perform that surgery. It's taken you a day to learn how to use a needle and thread. Also, the surgery is going to take me a whole day of my time, whereas this is going to take you 5 minutes. And there needed to be some way of gauging who was going to provide more value, because there's always going to be people that are willing to provide more value than others. You get people who are happy to sit there and sponge off of the government and not lift a hand in their life, and then there's people that are literally thinking every minute of the day of how they can go out and serve and solve problems. So there's always going to be that. So there had to be a way of gauging fair exchange for who was going to provide what to the marketplace. And that is all money was. So the great thing about money is everyone's got the same opportunities. The money is just there in circulation. It's going around the world. It's just flowing around. That's why it's called currency, because it's like a current. And it flows around, and it's there for you to take as much of it or as little of it as you want, depending on who you're serving and how much you're serving them. And that is it. When Mark Zuckerberg created Facebook, the money, the world didn't just print $30 billion for him. The money was already there. The money was going round the system. It was flowing around the system, and he just attracted 30 billion because he provided the most value, and people loved the service. People were happy to pay their money to him. So instead of flowing around everyone's houses, it just went to him. And that is it. That is money. It's not bad. It's not, it's not evil. It's a tool, and you can take as much of it as you like. It doesn't care what color you are, how fat you are, if you're a woman, if you're a man, if you've got, it really doesn't discriminate at all. It's there as a tool, and we should use it. So the next time that you get challenged with this, hopefully you go away and you have a think about any negative sort of charged emotions you've got towards money, and any negative thoughts you had towards money. Write them down, have a little think about it, and sort of ask yourself why you think that's negative. So I use this process called the 3 whys, and I'm going to be talking about this in lots of different ways, and how you can use it in different ways over the series of this podcast. But I use something called 3 whys. So if you've got a negative charged emotion towards money, say for instance you just say something like, money is evil, right? Ask yourself why to that question. And once you've asked yourself why to that question, really dig deep and find the answer. So the answer to the question might be, well, as growing up as a kid, my parents told me it was evil. Okay? So once you've got the answer to that question, ask yourself why to the second question. So why did your parents tell you it was evil? Well, they were always arguing about it. They were always arguing about money. So they always used to end the argument and say, oh God, money's the root of all problems. And that's why they told you that. And once you got that answer, ask yourself why again. Why were they arguing? Why were they arguing? And when you get to the root of it, you don't have to do the 3 whys. You can do 4 whys, 5 whys, 6 whys until you get to the bottom of it. The answer might be, well, they never had enough money. They never had savings. They used to spend too much. They didn't have any money left at the end of the month. And on the next episode, I'm going to be going over expenses and how to really, really optimize your expenses. But that will be the question. You'll find the answer to that. Eventually, you'll find the answer, and the answer will probably be that they actually needed money, and the whole conflict has up to this day has been the reason that you've believed that it's bad. So just any time, once you've done that little exercise there and you've sort of, obliterated any objections or any beliefs that you had about money, what I want you to do is whenever anyone queries you or challenges you on money, or you hear anyone say that money's bad, money's evil, I want you to just pause them and share with them what I've said. Just pass the comment, maybe just test the air and make a suggestion. And just shift their mindset. See what they say. Have the argument. Have the debate. Bring that up in conversation. Don't hide it away. If you're still hiding it away and you're ashamed to talk about money, we can't talk about money, that is a limiting belief. You are still limiting yourself if you believe you can't talk about money. Money's a tool. If you've got a job and you're a tradesman, you sit there talking about your tools that earn you money, right? Money can earn money as well. It's just another tool. You should not be embarrassed about talking about it. Next time someone is, just challenge them on it. So, I was talking at the start of this podcast about, freeing up your time. And, that can seem like miles away. It can seem like a lifetime away for financial independence. But it's actually not as hard as you might think. Because there's something called exponential growth in your income, okay? And you get this exponential growth in your income when there's a little intangible thing added to the journey, and that's free time. When you have free time to clear your mind and focus, in fact, it's proven that when you're focused on purpose and you're on mission and you've got a clear mind, you can increase your IQ by up to 14 points. And that is proven. There's a big article on that and you can go and read that. So you've got this intangible income growth that comes from having free time, because whether that's, whether you clear your mind so you figure out a nice efficient way to do your job better, or you think of another product for your business, or you think of another partnership deal you can do, or you have this epiphany where you can start bringing in more income doing something else, whatever it might be, you've got this intangible income growth from having free time. So what we want to focus on, what the goal should be, is to become wealthy. And wealth is measured in time. Wealth is time. People think that it's money, but you don't have to have lots of money to be wealthy. Wealth is how much time you've got, because the more time you've got, the more you can have this intangible income growth, and the more you can have, you just feel liberated. So I want to pose a little idea to you guys this week, just before we close out, and I want you to think about a little formula. So think about how much cash you've got stashed. Now, you might have $1,000 in the bank, you might got $2,000 in the bank, you might have, when you get paid, you might have £500 left, you might have, you might have $5,000 in a fund or a bond, you might have you might have bought some stocks, some shares, you might have some kind of cash, you might have cash stored under your pillow. But let's just think about when you get paid. Let's just say you get $2,000 a month, right? So you take home £2,000, and let's just say, for the purpose of this podcast, of this example, let's just say your living expenses are $2,000 a month. Okay, so you've got the cash in the bank, and you're getting paid $2,000, so you put your $2,000 in your bank, and then your living expenses are £2,000. Well, immediately that £2,000 gets swamped up, you spend all that, and it's gone, and you don't have anything left other than some savings you might have, or a bond or funds or anything like that, right? But the income is gone, £2,000 in, £2,000 out, and that's it. And that's what's happening month after month after month. Now let's just bring your savings or your little cash buffer into the equation and say you've got £5,000 or $5,000 stashed in the bank in some form. Okay, it could be in silver, could be in gold, could be in jewelry, could be in it could be in anything, a fund, a bond, stocks, any kind of, a savings account, whatever. Let's just say you've mustered up £5,000. Now, let's just say that you get paid £2,000, okay, and you've got £5,000 in the bank. Let's just say that your living expenses are £2,000, okay, so we're keeping the £2,000. So if you was to stop working, this is the question. If you was to stop working tomorrow, how long could you live for? How much time can you buy into the future? Well, if we look at that £2,000 living cost, you've got £5,000 in the bank, okay? You've stopped working, so you've stopped bringing in your £2,000 income, or you can live for 2.5 months, right? Because £2,000, if you divide 5,000 by 2,000, that's 2.5. That means you've got 2.5 months that you can live for before you drastically have to change your lifestyle, before you have to cancel the Sky bill, before you have to cancel the electricity and all that kind of stuff. So you can live for 2.5 months. Now, just that alone, imagine having 2.5 months off work. What could you create? How could you focus your time? How could you serve someone better? How could you enhance your business? How could you enhance your product? What would come out the other end of that? How could you set something up, a new business? 2.5 months is a long time. If you're focused every day, I think you can agree that you can see some kind of intangible income growth from having that free time. Right, so let's take it a step further then. Now we're going to say that we're going to bring in some kind of side hustle income. Okay, so some kind of side hustle, whether that is return on investment from your investments, so whether it's a return from your investments itself, whether you've learnt to trade, okay, so you're bringing in an income from trading. It might be a little side business that you've got going on, a little side hustle, because of the intangible income growth, because of the free time that you're using to create those ideas. Well, let's just say that you start bringing in £1,000 per month from that kind of avenue. Well, let's just go back to our calculation again. You've got £5,000 cash. You've got £2,000 living expenses. So 5,000 divided by 2,000 is 2.5. But what I want you to do now is take the £1,000 from the 2,000, which is 1,000, then divide 5,000 by 1,000, which is 5. So you've just by bringing in £1,000 a month from a side hustle or return on investments or dividend yielding stocks or trading, you have now doubled how much time you can buy into the future just by bringing in £1,000. So the great thing about this is, as you move closer and closer on your side hustle, let's just say, for instance, you bring in £1,899, right? £2,000 living expenses minus 1,899, okay, and then you divide the 5,000 cash by that figure, and you have just got yourself 49 months. Okay, so that is 4 years. 4 whole years you've got yourself just by using that exponential, the time you've got is exponential just because you've increased that side hustle income. So this is the principles that I use to really accelerate the time that I wanted to buy using trading. I had the income stream. I wanted to make my business more efficient so that I could generate income streams more efficiently, but I wanted to learn to trade so that I could bring in and accelerate that using that exponential growth in time. And the great thing is, as you can replace your living expenses with your side hustle or your trading or whatever it might be, you then become financially independent, okay? Because you've completely covered your living costs from either semi-passive income streams or an online business or trading income, whatever it might be. And then you have all the time in the world to focus on what you love doing. So I want you to go and think about that. Maybe just go and work out how much cash you've got. Go and do this exercise. Work out how much cash you've got available right now. Work out your living expenses. And then what I want you to do is to take the cash, take your living expenses, and divide the cash that you've got by your living expenses and see how much time you've got into the future. Now, most people on average can last about 2 to 4 weeks, and that is it. 2 to 4 weeks before they've got to drastically change their life. But have a think about it, and hopefully it gets you a bit excited about the concepts behind it and how we can, now we've identified that and now we know that it's possible, now we can start look at implementing strategies that allow us to do that. And over the course of this podcast, I'm going to be sharing with you income growth tips, business tips. I'm going to be sharing with you insights into how to develop efficient income through your business, grow multiple income streams, how to invest, how to trade if you're interested in trading, and all that kind of stuff that will allow you to achieve financial independence. So I think that's it for another week. Next week, we're going to be back with more myths. I'm going to kick off on, some more myths and insights to sort of jog the mind and make you think and kind of get that thought-provoking conversation going. But until then, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you then.
Subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. For news on all future events and updates,